You're watching Euronews now. I'm Takumbo Salako with your top stories. Turkey is hosting UN talks between Russian and Ukrainian officials over how to resume grain exports through the Black Sea. Counting down the Conservatives, Tory MPs are voting to reduce the number of candidates vying to become Britain's next Prime Minister. And we'll examine a French government study which warns that people who enjoy eating charcuterie meat have a higher risk of developing cancer.
Military delegations from Ukraine, Russia and Turkey are meeting UN officials in Istanbul. Turkey has previously played a key role in talks between Russia and Ukraine, initially on trying to broker a peace. But today they're hoping to set up a potential Black Sea corridor to resume the export of grain from the war-battered country. Ukraine has struggled to export its goods, with many of its ports blocked as war rages along its southern coast. It also accuses Moscow of stealing its grain from farms in the areas its invading troops have captured. Kyiv is pushing for the issue of unblocking Ukrainian grain to be resolved under the auspices of the UN. One idea would be to see that shipments start along specific corridors, with Ukrainian vessels guiding grain ships in and out through mined waters. Even if a deal is struck, shipping and insurance companies will require safety reassurances. The talks come at a time of record high food prices globally, as the conflict in the world's largest grain supplier has fueled concerns about food security. Wheat and fertilizer make up nearly a fifth of Ukraine's exports. The coming harvest is also at risk, as there's now a shortage of storage space due to the halt in distribution.
As Madrid bakes in the unrelenting sun, spare a thought for those who have to work outside. A sweltering heatwave has put 13 Spanish communities on alert. In some areas of Galicia, temperatures are predicted to hit 42 degrees. Portugal is also severely affected by high temperatures, which may peak in the coming days. Barely recovered from its previous heatwave, Europe is now facing a difficult weather situation.
The statistical model we use for temperature is predicting in some places up to 46 degrees. The national record for Portugal is slightly above 47 degrees in Amarelasia. We don't know if it will break the record. It's a possibility.
Parisians are also feeling the rising mercury. Authorities recently installed giant sprayers to offer some respite from the heat on the banks of the Seine.
It's definitely better here than in the heart of the city, and it's actually quite nice. There's shade, and there's a bit of atmosphere with lots of people and families, and you can see the boats going by. It's pretty cool.
Even usually mild Britain can't escape the heat wave. Forecasters have also issued an extreme heat warning for England and Wales, with weekend temperatures predicted to be above 35 degrees in southeast England and 32 degrees elsewhere. Spurred on by scorching temperatures, several wildfires have swept across Portugal's central region, forcing the evacuation of hundreds of locals. Amid the ecological damage is the lives and memories that will be destroyed. The Civil Protection Authority said 300 people were evacuated from several villages. In the nearby municipality of Leiria, some houses burned down and 3 motorways closed. Over the border in Spain, a wildfire that started in the Las Hurdas region has crossed into the province of Salamanca, threatening the Las Bauticas Sierra de Francia Natural Park. More than 40 firefighters are working to extinguish the blaze, but at the moment it's out of control due to high winds. 400 locals have been evacuated and are now being assisted by the Red Cross. Meanwhile in France, firefighters are working to put out a blaze that has already burnt at least 800 hectares of forest in the southwest near Bordeaux. High temperatures and winds are again fueling the situation. Many forests are now under threat. people in the fire's wake could lose everything.
Bosnia's Neretva River is a scenic paradise and a favorite for adventure seekers, but it has taken a decade of court battles and street protests to reach this point. Last week, a new law banned the construction of more power plants in what is seen as a victory for conservationists.
This whole business with small hydropower plants began some 15 years ago when investors started visiting villages and promising prosperity to the local people. Rivers were supposed to be prettified, were supposed to generate significant quantities of clean electricity, and local communities were promised it would benefit them greatly. As it turned out, the impact was very harmful. The loss of river water used by people for agriculture, animals and drinking, as well as erosion of forests, soon became visible to the naked eye.
The campaign claims the Balkans is home to over 28,000 kilometers of waterways in pristine or near natural state. For some, keeping the rivers free of human intervention is a matter of life or death.
Locals here are determined to fight to the end, even if it requires dying.
The new electricity law gives existing concession holders 3 years to obtain permits, as well as the approval of local communities for their projects to proceed.
A Tokyo court has ordered 4 former directors of the Tokyo Electric Company to pay 95 million euros to a group of investors for the Fukushima nuclear disaster. The tragedy was the second worst atomic accident in history after an earthquake and tsunami hit the Japanese coast in 2011, causing dozens of deaths.
Twitter is to sue Elon Musk over his decision to pull his $44 billion takeover of the social media giant. The lawsuit accuses the billionaire of making bad faith arguments against Twitter and carrying out public and misleading attacks on the company. The suit has kicked off what could be a long legal saga over the issue. The first vote to find a replacement for Boris Johnson as leader of the Conservative Party and then Prime Minister will be held today. The backbench committee running the election announced 24 hours earlier that only 8 of the 11 hopefuls had made it onto the official first-round ballot. Depending on who you're speaking to, former Chancellor Rishi Sunak is the bookie's favourite, along with Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt. Others say Liz Truss is likely to reach the final round of 2. Today, after Prime Minister's question time, candidates must secure at least 30 votes each to make it to the next round, with the result expected by early evening. The leadership race will eventually be whittled down to 2 candidates by the end of next week, after which they'll have the summer recess to win the support of the Tory membership before the final result on September 5th.
The French have decided not everything is good in ham. In a report released this week, ANSES, the French Agency for Food, Environmental and Occupational Health Safety, is formal. There is a link between nitrites, nitrate and cancer risk. These additives can be found in 75% of commercialized charcuterie, which allow to prevent the development of bacteria and to lengthen shelf life. For several years, associations and scientists have been concerned about the health of consumers, and last February, the National French Assembly voted a principle of a trajectory of decrease of the maximum doses. The industry is trying to adapt.
Today, France and French professionals apply a maximum amount of nitrite that is 40% lower than the European regulation. And with Denmark, which had a similar approach, we are the 2 countries with the lowest maximum amounts of nitrite in Europe and certainly in the world.
The association Food Watch and the French League Against Cancer have already stated that this is not enough. They have asked the public authorities to ban these additives. The government has announced an action plan to reduce the addition of nitrite components in food products. The text will be presented to Parliament in the fall.